Find somewhere else to die. You're useless now." Those words hit me like a physical blow as I stood in the doorway of what I thought was our home. My husband Gregory was sitting at the dining table, his face cold and emotionless, like I was nothing more than a stranger who'd overstayed their welcome. Behind him, his sister Denise smirked, arms crossed, clearly enjoying every second of my humiliation. "My name is Evelyn. I'm 37 years old, and until that moment, I'd spent the last 15 years of my life devoted to my marriage and my husband's family. I'd given up my career as a financial consultant to support Gregory through business school, nursed his ailing father through 3 years of declining health, and endured countless holidays with his insufferable relatives who treated me like hired help. And this was my reward." "Gregory, what are you talking about?" My voice came out weak, uncertain. "This is our home." "Was your home," Denise interjected, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "Dad left everything to Gregory. The estate, the stocks, all of it. And Gregory's made it very clear that he doesn't need dead weight anymore." I looked at my husband, waiting for him to tell his sister she was wrong, that this was some kind of sick joke. But he just sat there, staring at me with those cold eyes I barely recognized anymore. "The lawyer read the will yesterday," Gregory said flatly. "I inherited the entire estate. 33 million in stocks, the house in Seattle, the vacation property in Vermont, all of it. And I've decided it's time we went our separate ways." My legs felt weak. "Separate ways? Gregory, we've been married for 15 years. 15 wasted years," he said, standing up and walking toward me. "Let's be honest, Evelyn. You haven't worked in over a decade. You have no income, no assets of your own. You've been living off my father's generosity, and now that he's gone, well, there's no reason to keep pretending." Pretending? The word barely made it past my lips. Denise laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Oh, please. You think we didn't know? You married Gregory for his family's money. Everyone knew it. You were some struggling consultant who saw a meal ticket and grabbed it." "That's not true," I said. But even as the words came out, I realized how pointless they were. These people had already decided who I was, what I was worth. Nothing I said would change their minds. "I want you out by the end of the week," Gregory said, turning away from me like I was already gone. "Take your personal belongings, but nothing else. The furniture, the art, the jewelry I bought you over the years, it all stays here. Consider it compensation for the years of living rent-free." I stood there, frozen, trying to process what was happening. This couldn't be real. This man, who I'd loved, who I'd sacrificed everything for, was throwing me out like garbage the moment he got his inheritance. "Where am I supposed to go?" I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. "That's not my problem anymore," Gregory said without looking back. "You're smart enough. I'm sure you'll figure something out. Maybe get a job for once in your life." Denise moved closer, her smile widening. "My brother's been carrying you for years, Evelyn. Time to stand on your own 2 feet. If you even remember how." I wanted to scream at them, to fight back, to tell them exactly what I thought of their cruelty. But instead, I just turned and walked toward the bedroom, my hands shaking as I pulled out my phone. There was only one person I could think to call. "Lawrence? It's Evelyn. I need help." My lawyer, Lawrence, had been a friend since college. He'd handled the prenuptial agreement when Gregory and I got married, though back then it had seemed like a formality, something Gregory's father insisted on that we'd never need to use. "Evelyn, what's wrong? You sound upset." "Gregory just kicked me out of the house. His father died last week and left him everything. 33 million in stocks, the properties, all of it. And now he's telling me I have 24 hours to pack my things and leave." There was a pause on the other end of the line, and then Lawrence did something I didn't expect. He laughed. Not a polite chuckle, but a full, genuine laugh that went on for several seconds. "Lawrence, this isn't funny," I said, feeling tears prick at my eyes. "Oh, Evelyn," he said, still laughing. "I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at your husband. Is he really that dumb?" "What do you mean?" "Check your email in 5 minutes. I'm sending you something that's going to make your day a lot better. Trust me on this." He hung up before I could ask anything else, leaving me standing in the bedroom with my phone in my hand, Gregory's cruel words still echoing in my head, and a tiny spark of hope beginning to flicker in the darkness. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone, waiting for Lawrence's email. The bedroom around me felt foreign now, like I was already a ghost haunting a place that no longer belonged to me. Through the door, I could hear Gregory and Denise laughing, their voices carrying down the hallway with an edge of celebration that made my stomach turn. My mind drifted back to how we'd gotten here, to all the moments I'd convinced myself were just rough patches, temporary stresses that every marriage faces. But now, looking back with clear eyes, I could see the pattern I'd been too close to notice. Gregory and I met at a company networking event in Minneapolis 16 years ago. I was 21, fresh out of college with a degree in finance and a job at a small consulting firm. He was 25, charming, ambitious, working at his father's investment company while finishing his MBA. His father, Walter, owned a successful portfolio management firm that had made the family wealthy, though not extravagantly so back then. I fell for Gregory quickly. He was confident, attentive, full of plans for the future. He talked about building something together, about partnership and equality. When he proposed after a year of dating, I said yes without hesitation. The problem started small. His mother, Patricia, had died when Gregory was young, and Walter had remarried a woman named Judith, who'd brought Denise into the family. Denise was 3 years younger than Gregory, spoiled and entitled, and she'd made it clear from our first meeting that she didn't think I was good enough for her stepbrother. "You're from where? Some tiny town in Montana?" she'd said at our engagement party, looking me up and down like I was wearing rags instead of the dress I'd saved for months to buy. How quaint. "I'm sure you'll adjust to our lifestyle eventually." Walter, for his part, had been kind but distant. He'd insisted on the prenuptial agreement, which I'd signed without much thought. I had nothing to protect anyway, and Gregory assured me it was just his father being cautious. The terms seemed straightforward. If we divorced, we'd each keep what we brought into the marriage, plus an equal split of any assets acquired together. What I didn't know then was that Walter had included other provisions, clauses that Lawrence had advised me about but that I'd barely read, too caught up in wedding planning and the excitement of starting my new life. After we married, I threw myself into being a supportive wife. Gregory's career was demanding, and his father expected him to prove himself at the firm before taking on more responsibility. I worked my consulting job for the first 2 years, but Gregory started complaining that I wasn't available enough, that his business dinners and family obligations required a wife who could focus on him full-time. "Evelyn, do you really need to work?" he'd asked one night after I'd missed one of his father's dinner parties because of a client deadline. "We don't need the money. My father pays me well, and it's important that you're available when I need you." I'd resisted at first, but he'd worn me down with a combination of guilt and logic. We didn't need my salary. His family expected certain things. Wouldn't I be happier without the stress of work? Finally, I'd agreed, telling myself it was temporary, that I'd go back to consulting once we had children, and they were in school. The children never came. We tried for years, went through 2 rounds of fertility treatments that were emotionally and physically exhausting. Gregory became more distant with each failed attempt, and eventually, he stopped trying altogether. "Maybe it's for the best," he'd said after the second treatment failed. "Children are expensive, and they'd just complicate things." I'd been devastated, but I'd buried that grief and focused on being the perfect wife in other ways. I hosted dinner parties for his colleagues, accompanied him to every family event, and spent 3 years caring for Walter when he got sick. Walter's illness had been particularly hard. Parkinson's disease had slowly robbed him of his independence, and Judith had made it clear she wasn't interested in being a caregiver. Denise was even less helpful, always too busy with her social calendar to visit, let alone help. So it fell to me. I coordinated his medical appointments, managed his medications, made sure he ate properly, and sat with him during his worst days. Gregory was always too busy with work, but he'd praised my dedication, telling me how much it meant to him that I was taking care of his father. "You're doing an amazing job, Evelyn," he'd said one night after a particularly difficult day with Walter. "Dad's lucky to have you. We all are." I'd believed him. I'd thought I was building something, investing in a family that valued me, creating bonds that would last a lifetime. Even when Denise made snide comments about me being Walter's free nurse, I'd ignored her, telling myself that Gregory appreciated me, that his opinion was the only one that mattered. Walter died 3 weeks ago. The funeral was last Tuesday, a somber affair where I'd stood beside Gregory, holding his hand while he gave a heartfelt eulogy about his father's legacy. Denise had cried dramatically, clutching onto Gregory's other arm, while Judith had sat stone-faced in the front row. Yesterday, the lawyer read the will. I hadn't attended. Gregory said it was just a formality, that his father's affairs were straightforward. He'd come home quiet, his face unreadable, and I'd given him space to process his grief. I should have known something was wrong when Denise showed up this morning with that smug expression. I should have realized that the whispered conversation in Gregory's study meant trouble. But I'd been too trusting, too naive, right up until the moment my husband told me to find somewhere else to die. My phone buzzed. Lawrence's email had arrived. I opened the email with trembling fingers, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. The subject line was simple. "Read this carefully. Do not tell Gregory yet." The email contained a single attachment, a PDF of Walter's will. But it wasn't the will itself that Lawrence wanted me to see. It was a highlighted section on page 7, a clause I'd never known existed. I read it once, then twice, then a third time, each reading making my pulse race faster. The words seemed impossible, too good to be true, but there they were in clear legal language. All stocks, properties, and financial assets bequeathed to Gregory Walter Thompson are subject to the following condition: any transfer, sale, or disposal of said assets exceeding $25,000 in total value within the first 2 years following the testator's death requires written approval from Gregory's spouse, Evelyn Marie Thompson, as witnessed by 2 legal parties. Failure to obtain such approval renders any attempted transaction void and triggers immediate transfer of 75% of said assets to Evelyn Marie Thompson, with the remaining 25% to be held in trust for charitable distribution. I stared at the screen, reading the words over and over, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. Below the highlighted section was a note from Lawrence. "Evelyn, Walter added this clause 3 years ago, right after you started taking care of him full-time. He never told Gregory because he wanted to see if his son would stay with you when he had money of his own, or if Gregory would show his true colors. Apparently, Gregory just showed his colors in spectacular fashion. Don't tell him about this yet. Let him make his moves. Every stock sale, every property transfer he tries to make without your approval will trigger the penalty clause. And trust me, a man who just inherited $33 million isn't going to sit on it. He'll start moving money immediately. Call me when you're ready to proceed. We're going to make sure your husband regrets every word he said to you today." I had to cover my mouth to keep from laughing out loud. Walter had known. Somehow that kind man I'd cared for during his illness had seen what I'd been too blind to notice. He'd seen his son's true nature and had protected me from it, even from beyond the grave. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Lawrence. "By the way, check the property deed for your house. Walter never transferred it to Gregory. It's been in a trust with you as the beneficiary since year 2 of your marriage. Your husband doesn't own the house he just kicked you out of. You do." I stood up from the bed, my legs steadier now. The weakness I'd felt earlier replaced by something else entirely. clarity, purpose. A cold, focused anger that had nothing to do with emotion and everything to do with justice. Through the door, I could hear Gregory on the phone, his voice loud and excited. "Yeah, I know. Finally free. I'm already talking to a broker about selling some of the stock. Going to buy that boat I've had my eye on." No. She'll be gone by the weekend. Good riddance." I walked quietly down the hallway, staying out of sight, listening as Gregory continued his call. Denise was in the kitchen, also on her phone, her voice carrying through the open door. "It's about time," she was saying. "Gregory's been wanting to dump her for years, but Dad kept guilt-tripping him about how much she did for the family. Well, Dad's gone now, and so is the dead weight. We're finally free to enjoy the money the way we should." I slipped back into the bedroom and pulled out my suitcase, deliberately making noise as I opened drawers and started packing. Let them think they'd won. Let them believe I was defeated, broken, ready to slink away into whatever sad future they'd imagined for me. My phone buzzed with another message from Lawrence. "Just got word from a contact at Gregory's brokerage firm. He's already initiated a sale of $5 million worth of stock. Set to clear tomorrow afternoon. That's well over the threshold. The moment that sale completes without your written approval, the penalty clause triggers. Everything transfers to you. I'm drawing up the paperwork now." I typed back quickly. "How long do I have to stay quiet about this?" "As long as you want. The clause is ironclad. The more transactions he makes, the more violations he racks up. But I'd recommend letting him make at least one major sale before we drop the hammer. Makes the legal case absolutely bulletproof. Plus, it'll be more satisfying when he realizes what he's done." I looked around the bedroom at all the expensive furniture, the designer bedding, the art on the walls that Gregory had bought to impress his colleagues. None of it mattered. None of it had ever mattered. What mattered was that I'd loved someone who'd never loved me back, who'd seen me as nothing more than useful until I wasn't anymore. But Walter had seen more. Walter had known that the son he'd raised was capable of cruelty, and he'd made sure there would be consequences. He'd protected me when I hadn't even known I needed protecting. I zipped up my suitcase, my movements calm and deliberate. I'd take a few days' worth of clothes, my personal items, and leave everything else behind. Let Gregory think he'd won. Let him celebrate his freedom and his inheritance. Let him start spending money that wasn't actually his anymore. And then, when the time was right, when he'd committed enough violations of that clause to make the transfer of assets absolutely uncontestable, I'd show him exactly what his cruelty had cost him. I walked out of the bedroom with my suitcase, passing Gregory in the hallway. He looked at me with something like satisfaction, like he'd just taken out the trash. "Smart choice," he said. "I knew you'd see reason." I smiled at him, a real smile that probably confused him. "Oh, Gregory," I said softly. "You have no idea how much I'm going to enjoy the next few days." I left him standing there looking puzzled, walked out the front door and drove away from the house, my phone already dialing Lawrence's number. The real story was just beginning. I checked into a modest hotel in downtown Seattle, not because I couldn't afford better, but because I wanted Gregory to think I was struggling. Lawrence had advised me to keep a low profile, to let Gregory believe his plan was working perfectly, while we documented every move he made. "The psychology here is important," Lawrence had explained over the phone that first night. "Your husband thinks he's gotten away with something. He's going to act accordingly. And every action he takes without your approval is another nail in his coffin." I sat on the hotel bed, my laptop open, watching as Lawrence sent me screenshots of Gregory's financial activity. He had contacts at the brokerage firm, people who owed him favors and were more than willing to provide information about transactions that would soon be very relevant to a legal case. The $5 million stock sale had cleared that afternoon, just as Lawrence predicted. Gregory had immediately transferred the money to his personal account and made several purchases: a down payment on a yacht, a new luxury car, and a $50,000 watch I recognized from a magazine he'd been looking at for months. He's not wasting any time, I murmured, scrolling through the documentation. They never do, Lawrence replied. Men like Gregory, they think money makes them invincible. They think they can do whatever they want without consequences. My phone rang. It was Gregory. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message he left. Evelyn, we need to talk about the divorce. I'm willing to be generous, give you $50,000 to help you get on your feet. But I need you to sign the papers quickly. My lawyer's drawing them up now. Let's handle this like adults, okay? Call me back. $50,000 out of $33 million. The generosity was stunning. I called Lawrence instead. He wants me to sign divorce papers, offering me $50,000. Lawrence laughed again, that same delighted sound from yesterday. Let him send them. We'll review them, find every mistake, every lowball tactic. Meanwhile, he keeps spending money that's already legally yours. This just gets better and better. The next day, Gregory's lawyer sent over the divorce papers. Lawrence and I went through them in his office, a sleek space in downtown Seattle, with a view of the harbor that reminded me of everything I'd given up when I stopped working. This is insulting, Lawrence said, flipping through the pages. He's claiming you contributed nothing to the marriage, that all assets are his separate property, and that $50,000 is more than fair compensation for 15 years of your life. Can he actually argue that? He can argue anything he wants. Doesn't mean a judge will agree. But here's what's interesting. Lawrence pointed to a clause in the paperwork. He's asking you to waive all claims to Walter's estate, which means he knows on some level that you might have a claim. He's trying to get you to sign away rights you don't even know you have. What do I do? Nothing yet. Let him think you're considering it. Meanwhile, we gather more evidence. Has he made any other large transactions? I pulled out my phone and showed him the latest screenshots. Gregory had sold another $3 million in stock that morning and was in negotiations to buy a property in Los Angeles, a beachfront condo that Denise had apparently convinced him would be a good investment. He's also planning a trip to Europe, I added. First-class flights for him and Denise. 2 weeks in Paris, Rome, and Barcelona. Cost about $30,000 for the whole thing. Lawrence leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smile on his face. Evelyn, your husband is an idiot. Every transaction over $25,000 total requires your approval. He's already made multiple violations. We could trigger the penalty clause right now if we wanted. But you said to wait. I did. And I still think we should. Let him get comfortable. Let him spend more money, make more plans. The deeper he gets, the more devastating it'll be when everything comes crashing down. Plus, his lawyer is clearly incompetent if they didn't catch the approval clause in the will. That works in our favor. I thought about Gregory on that yacht he'd bought, sailing around with Denise, celebrating his freedom while I sat in a hotel room, supposedly broken and defeated. The image should have hurt, but instead it just made me angry. A cold, calculating anger that sharpened my focus. How long do we wait? I asked. Until he's pot committed, as they say in poker. Until he's spent and committed so much money that losing it all will destroy him. My guess? Give it 2 weeks. Let him take that Europe trip. Let him really settle into his new life. Then we drop the hammer. I nodded slowly. And in the meantime? In the meantime, you play the part of the defeated ex-wife. You stay in this hotel. You look sad when you go out in public. You let mutual friends think Gregory broke your heart. And you document everything. Every conversation, every text message, every social media post where he or Denise brag about the inheritance. It all becomes evidence. Over the next week, I did exactly as Lawrence advised. I stayed at the hotel, only leaving for groceries and occasional walks. I ran into a few people Gregory and I had known as a couple, and I let them see what they expected. A woman who'd lost everything, confused and hurt, trying to figure out her next steps. Evelyn, oh my God, I heard about you and Gregory. said Patricia, a woman from our old neighborhood. "I'm so sorry. Divorce is always hard." "Thank you," I said quietly, looking down at the ground. "It's been difficult. I'm just taking things one day at a time." "If you need anything," she said, touching my arm with what seemed like genuine sympathy, "please reach out. I know you don't have family in Seattle." I thanked her and continued walking, knowing she'd report back to her friends, who'd report to their friends, and eventually, the story would reach Gregory and Denise. Perfect. Let them think I was broken. Meanwhile, Gregory was living his best life. Social media told the story in vivid detail. Denise posted constantly, pictures of the new yacht, the car, shopping trips where they spent thousands on clothes and jewelry. Gregory himself posted less frequently, but his posts showed a man without a care in the world, toasting his freedom with expensive champagne and designer sunglasses. One post in particular caught my attention. It was from 3 days after I'd left, a picture of Gregory and Denise on the yacht, with a group of people I vaguely recognized from his father's company. "New chapter, new life," the caption read. "Sometimes you have to cut out the dead weight to really soar. Here's to freedom and family. Dad would be proud." The comments were full of congratulations and laughing emojis. No one asked about me. No one seemed to think there was anything wrong with a man celebrating his divorce days after his father's funeral. I screenshot the post and sent it to Lawrence. He replied immediately, "Perfect. Keep collecting these." His own words are going to bury him. The breakthrough came on day 10. I was sitting in the hotel room, reviewing financial documents Lawrence had sent over, when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but something made me answer. "Hello? Evelyn? It's Judith." I froze. Walter's widow, the woman who'd barely spoken to me at the funeral, was calling me. This couldn't be good. "Judith, I wasn't expecting to hear from you." "I'm sure you weren't." Her voice was cool, measured. "I'm calling because I think we need to talk. In person, if you're willing." "About what?" "About Gregory. About Walter. About things you need to know." She paused. "Things I should have told you a long time ago." We met at a coffee shop in Fremont, a quiet place away from anywhere Gregory or Denise might go. Judith arrived exactly on time, impeccably dressed as always, her face giving away nothing. She ordered an espresso and sat down across from me, studying me with sharp eyes that had always made me uncomfortable. "You look terrible," she said bluntly. "I've had a hard week." "I imagine you have." She sipped her espresso. "Gregory told me what he did. Kicked you out the moment he got the inheritance. Denise called me afterward, absolutely giddy about it. They think they won." "Didn't they?" Judith smiled, a thin, knowing smile that reminded me of Lawrence's laugh. "That depends on whether Walter's little insurance policy works the way he intended it to." My heart started racing. "You know about the clause?" "Of course I know about it. I was there when he added it to the will." She leaned forward. "Evelyn, I need to tell you something. And I need you to understand that I'm not telling you this because I like you. I don't particularly like anyone. But I respected Walter, and he wanted you to know the truth about his son." "What truth?" "That Gregory has always been this way. Selfish, calculating, cruel when it served him. Walter saw it but couldn't quite bring himself to cut his son off completely. So he did the next best thing. He made sure there would be consequences if Gregory showed his true colors." Judith pulled out a folder from her bag and slid it across the table. Walter kept records. Conversations he had with Gregory that Walter recorded without his son knowing. Financial documents showing times Gregory had tried to manipulate his father into giving him more money. Text messages between Gregory and Denise where they talked about what they'd do when Walter died. I opened the folder with shaking hands. The first document was a transcript of a conversation between Walter and Gregory from 2 years ago, right after I'd started caring for Walter full-time. Gregory's words jumped off the page. Dad, be reasonable. Evelyn's doing this for the money. You know that, right? She's hoping if she plays the devoted daughter-in-law, you'll remember her in the will. But she doesn't actually care about you. Nobody could spend that much time with a sick person unless they had an ulterior motive. Walter's response was quiet, sad. Is that what you think, son? That the only reason someone would care for me is money? Come on, Dad. Don't be naive. I know Evelyn. She's playing a long game. But don't worry, once you're gone, I'll handle her. She won't see a dime from this family. I felt sick reading it. All those times Gregory had praised my dedication, told me how much he appreciated what I was doing for his father. He'd been planning this. He'd been planning to throw me away the moment Walter died. There's more, Judith said quietly. Keep reading. The next document was a text exchange between Gregory and Denise from 6 months ago, during Walter's final decline. Denise, how much longer do you think he has? Gregory, doctor says maybe a year, but honestly, it could be less. He's getting weaker every day. Denise, and Evelyn's still playing nurse? Gregory, of course. She thinks she's securing her place in the family, doesn't realize she's just free labor. The moment Dad's gone, she's gone too. Denise, what about the prenup? Gregory, covers me completely. She gets nothing. Dad wanted to rewrite it last year, tried to tell me Evelyn deserved something for taking care of him, but I convinced him she'd already benefited enough from the marriage. God, I can't wait until this is over. I'm so tired of pretending to be grateful. I closed the folder, unable to read more. My hands were shaking and I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to cry. Not here. Not now. Why are you showing me this? I asked Judith. Because Walter asked me to, she said simply. If Gregory kicked you out after inheriting, I was supposed to give you this folder. Walter knew his son might do exactly what he did, and he wanted you to see the truth. He also wanted you to know something else. She reached into her bag and pulled out an envelope. This is a letter Walter wrote to you 3 weeks before he died. He was very specific about when I should give it to you. Only after Gregory showed who he really was. I took the envelope with trembling hands. The handwriting on the front was shaky, but unmistakable. Walter's. To Evelyn, the daughter I should have had. Read it when you're ready, Judith said, standing up. But read it soon. And Evelyn, when you destroy my stepson, and I believe you will, make sure he understands why. Make sure he knows that his father saw everything, knew everything, and chose you over him in the end. She left before I could respond, leaving me sitting in the coffee shop with a folder full of betrayals and a letter I wasn't sure I was ready to read. I made it back to the hotel before opening the letter. My hands shook as I unfolded the single page, covered in Walter's familiar handwriting, weaker than it used to be, but still legible. My dear Evelyn, it began. If you're reading this, it means my son has done what I feared he would do. He has shown you the cruelty I always suspected lived in his heart, but hoped I was wrong about. I am sorry you had to experience that. You deserved so much better. You must know something. Everything you did for me these past 3 years, you did for someone who saw you clearly. I knew you weren't caring for me out of obligation or calculation. I knew you were doing it because you have a kind heart, because you wanted to help, because you believed in family and loyalty. Those are qualities my son never had and never valued. I have made arrangements to protect you. By the time you read this, you will have learned about the clause in my will. Use it. Don't feel guilty about taking what Gregory thinks is his. He doesn't deserve it, and he certainly doesn't deserve you. There's something else you should know. The house you're living in, the one Gregory just kicked you out of, I transferred it to a trust with you as the sole beneficiary 2 years ago. I never told Gregory. He thinks he owns it, but he doesn't. You do. Everything in it, Every piece of furniture and art and jewelry legally belongs to you. Let him try to sell it. Let him learn what happens when you steal from someone who actually has rights. Live well, Evelyn. Find happiness. And know that somewhere, I'm watching over you, proud of the strength you're about to show. With love and respect, Walter. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Not tears of sadness, but of something else entirely. Vindication. Validation. The knowledge that someone had seen me, truly seen me, and had thought I was worth protecting. I called Lawrence immediately. I have more evidence, I said. A lot more. And I think it's time we stopped waiting. Lawrence came to the hotel within an hour of my call. I showed him everything. Judith's folder, Walter's letter, and the new financial statements showing Gregory had now spent over $8 million in less than 2 weeks. This changes everything, Lawrence said, flipping through the documents. With Walter's letter and these recordings, we can prove Gregory knew he was supposed to have your approval for major transactions. This isn't just a violation of the will's terms anymore. This is deliberate fraud. What do we do now? Now we go nuclear. We file an emergency petition with the court to freeze all of Gregory's accounts pending a full review of his transactions. We present this evidence showing he violated the terms of the will, and we demand immediate transfer of assets per the penalty clause. And we file for divorce on your terms, with full documentation of his fraud and emotional abuse. How long will it take? To file. I can have everything ready by tomorrow morning. To get a ruling, the emergency freeze should happen within 48 hours once a judge sees this evidence. The full asset transfer might take a few weeks, but Gregory won't be able to touch another penny once that freeze is in place. I thought about Gregory on his yacht, probably planning his Europe trip, completely unaware of what was coming. There's one more thing. Walter said in his letter that the house is mine, in a trust. Lawrence's eyes lit up. Do you have documentation of that? Walter mentioned it, but I don't have papers. I'll pull the property records. If Walter transferred it to a trust with you as beneficiary, there will be a paper trail. He typed quickly on his laptop. What's the property address? I gave it to him and watched as he navigated through various databases. After a few minutes, he smiled. Found it. The house was transferred to the Walter Thompson Family Trust 3 years ago. You're listed as the sole beneficiary. Current market value is about $2.3 million. Gregory doesn't own any part of it. He's living there right now. Not for long. We'll include an eviction notice with the other filings. Technically, he's been squatting in your house since Walter died. Lawrence leaned back, looking more satisfied than I'd ever seen him. Evelyn, do you understand what we have here? We can prove Gregory violated the will's terms multiple times. We can show he defrauded you of your property rights. We can demonstrate emotional abuse and financial manipulation. And we can do all of this while he's in Europe, probably spending more money he doesn't actually have anymore. When does he leave for Europe? According to his social media, tomorrow afternoon. Flight leaves at 3 p.m. Let him go, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. Let him have one last trip thinking he's won. File everything the morning he leaves. By the time he lands in Paris, his accounts will be frozen, and his world will be falling apart. Lawrence looked at me with something like pride. You've gotten cold, Evelyn. I like it. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the moments of my marriage, all the times I'd made excuses for Gregory's behavior, all the ways I'd convinced myself things would get better. How had I been so blind? But I also thought about Walter, sitting in his chair during those long afternoons when I'd read to him or help him with his physical therapy. He'd seen what I couldn't or wouldn't see. He'd known his son was capable of this and had quietly, carefully, built protections for me. You're too good for him, you know, Walter had said to me once, about 6 months before he died. We were sitting in the garden, watching the sunset, and he'd been unusually contemplative. My son doesn't see your value. He never has. Walter, that's not true, I'd protested automatically. Gregory loves me. Does he? Walter had looked at me with those sharp eyes that missed nothing. Or does he love what you do for him? There's a difference, Evelyn. A crucial difference. I hadn't understood then, but I understood now. The next morning, I woke up early and got dressed carefully. I chose professional clothes, did my hair and makeup, and looked at myself in the mirror. The woman looking back at me wasn't the broken, defeated person Gregory had thrown away. She was someone else entirely. Someone stronger. Lawrence called at 9 a.m. Everything's filed. The judge is reviewing it now. Given the evidence, I expect we'll have the freeze order by this afternoon. Gregory's flight leaves at 3. Perfect timing. He'll be in the air when his world ends. I spent the morning in a strange state of calm. I went for a walk, got coffee, and sat by the water, watching boats go by. Around 2 p.m., I checked Gregory's social media. He'd posted a photo from the airport, him and Denise with their luggage, big smiles, expensive sunglasses, the caption reading, "Paris, here we come, living the dream." The comments were full of envious friends wishing them well. Someone wrote, "You deserve this, Gregory. Enjoy every minute." Another commented, "So happy for you both. Your dad would be proud." At 2:45 p.m., my phone rang. Lawrence. The freeze order came through. Every account in Gregory's name is locked. His credit cards are canceled. His brokerage accounts are frozen. And the best part? The court is demanding he appear for a hearing in 3 days to show cause why the penalty clause shouldn't be enforced. If he doesn't appear, or if he can't prove he had your approval for those transactions, the automatic transfer happens immediately. He's about to board a plane to Paris. I know. His lawyer's been trying to reach him. Left 6 voicemails in the last hour. But Gregory's probably already through security, phone off, thinking about champagne and first-class meals. Lawrence laughed. Evelyn, in about 6 hours your husband is going to land in Paris, turn on his phone and discover that he's broke. Completely, totally broke. He won't be able to pay for his hotel, his meals, anything. His accounts are frozen, his credit cards don't work, and he's on another continent with no way to access money. I thought about Gregory and Denise arriving at their luxury hotel, exhausted from the flight, trying to check in, only to have their credit card declined. I thought about them frantically calling banks, trying to figure out what happened, slowly realizing the truth. "He's going to call me," I said. "Oh, he's definitely going to call you. What are you going to say?" I smiled, looking out at the water. I think I'll let him sweat for a while. Let him wonder. Let him panic. And then, when he's really desperate, I'll answer and tell him exactly what he told me, to find somewhere else to die because he's useless now. "Cold," Lawrence said again. "Very cold." "No," I corrected him. "Just fair." Gregory's first call came at 11 p.m. Seattle time, which meant it was 8 a.m. in Paris. I was lying in bed, wide awake, staring at my phone as his name flashed across the screen. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. He called again immediately, then again. Then Denise called, then Gregory again. By midnight, I had 17 missed calls and a dozen increasingly frantic text messages. "Evelyn, answer your phone. This isn't funny. We need to talk now. What the hell did you do? Our cards don't work. Call me back immediately. This is serious." I screenshot each message and sent them to Lawrence, who was apparently also still awake. "Perfect," he texted back. "Let him spiral. The longer he panics, the worse decisions he'll make." At 12:30 a.m., my phone rang again. This time it was a FaceTime call from Gregory. Against my better judgment, or maybe because I wanted to see his face when he realized what had happened, I answered. Gregory looked terrible. He was in what appeared to be the hotel lobby, his hair messy, his expensive shirt wrinkled, his face red and sweating. Behind him, I could see Denise pacing back and forth, talking rapidly on her own phone. "Evelyn, what the hell is going on?" He didn't even bother with a greeting. "Our accounts are frozen, all of them. The hotel is threatening to kick us out because our card was declined. My credit cards don't work. Nothing works. Did you do this?" I looked at him calmly, taking in every detail of his panic. "Hello, Gregory. How's Paris? Don't play games with me. Answer the question. Did you do this? Did I freeze your accounts? No. I don't have that power. Only a court can freeze accounts." His face went even redder. "A court? What are you talking about? Why would a court freeze my accounts?" "Well," I said slowly, enjoying every second, "it might have something to do with the $8 million you've spent in the last 2 weeks without my approval." "Your approval? What are you talking about? That's my money. My father left it to me." "Actually, he left it to you with conditions. Conditions you violated the moment you sold that first batch of stock without my written consent." I smiled at him. "Did you even read the full will, Gregory? Or did you just skip to the part where you got all the money?" I could see the exact moment understanding began to dawn. His face shifted from angry to confused to horrified in the space of 3 seconds. "There's no condition," he said, but his voice was uncertain now. "My lawyer reviewed everything. He said it was all mine. Your lawyer is an idiot. Page 7 of the will, Gregory. Any transaction over $25,000 requires my written approval. You've made multiple transactions totaling $8 million. Without my approval, that triggers the penalty clause." "What penalty clause?" "The one that transfers 75% of everything your father left you directly to me. The yacht you bought? Mine. The car? Mine. The watch? Mine. And that property you're closing on in Los Angeles next week? That sale is void, which means you're about to breach a contract you can't fulfill. Hope you have a good lawyer, because you're going to need one." Gregory's face had gone from red to white. "You're lying. This is some kind of trick. Check your email. My lawyer sent all the documentation to your lawyer about 6 hours ago, right around the time you were boarding your flight. Funny how that worked out." "This is insane. You can't do this. That money is mine." "Was yours. Past tense. And Gregory, about the house you kicked me out of, that's mine too. Has been for 3 years. Walter put it in a trust with me as the beneficiary. You've been living in my house planning to sell my property. That's called theft." Denise had stopped pacing and was now standing next to Gregory trying to see the screen. I could hear her voice, shrill and panicked. "What is she saying? What does she mean the house is hers?" "There's an eviction notice being served today," I continued. "You have 72 hours to remove your belongings from my property. Anything left after that becomes mine by default. Oh, and I'm changing the locks, so don't bother trying to sneak in." "Evelyn, wait, let's talk about this." Gregory's voice had changed completely, the arrogance gone, replaced by desperation. "We can work this out. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have said those things to you. I was grieving. I wasn't thinking clearly. You seemed pretty clear-headed when you told me to find somewhere else to die. I didn't mean that. Come on, we've been together 15 years. That has to count for something. It counted for $50,000, remember? That's what you said my 15 years of marriage were worth. 50,000 out of 33 million. Very generous of you. I'll give you more. We'll split everything 50-50. Just call your lawyer and tell him to unfreeze the accounts." I laughed, genuinely amused. "Gregory, you don't understand. It's not my decision anymore. You violated the terms of the will. The penalty clause is automatic. The court has already ruled. By the end of next week, 75% of everything will be transferred to me. The other 25% goes to charity. You get nothing." "Nothing? That's not fair. My father wanted me to have that money." "Your father wanted you to have that money if you proved you deserved it. You didn't. You proved exactly what he was afraid you'd prove, that you're selfish, cruel, and stupid. You can't do this! Denise had grabbed the phone from Gregory, her face filling the screen, twisted with rage. You're nothing but a gold digger. You manipulated Walter when he was sick, poisoned him against his own family. Really? Is that what you think? I kept my voice calm, which seemed to infuriate her more. Denise, I have recordings. Your stepfather recorded conversations with Gregory, where your brother literally called me a gold digger who was only caring for Walter to get money. Want me to play them for you? Her face went pale. I also have text messages between you and Gregory where you talked about how you couldn't wait for Walter to die so you could spend his money. Want me to read those aloud? Or should I just submit them as evidence in the fraud case? Fraud case? Gregory had taken the phone back, his voice cracking. What fraud case? The one where you knowingly violated the terms of the will, attempted to sell property you didn't own, and tried to defraud me of my legal rights. My lawyer is very thorough, Gregory. Very thorough. I could see panic setting in now, the reality of what he'd done finally sinking through his arrogance. Evelyn, please. I'm begging you. Don't do this. I'll do anything. What do you want? Just name it. What do I want? I pretended to think about it. I want you to feel exactly what I felt when you told me I was useless and kicked me out of my own home. I want you to experience the humiliation, the fear, the uncertainty of having everything taken away by someone who's supposed to love you. And you know what, Gregory? You're going to feel all of that, starting right now. How are we supposed to get home? Denise screamed in the background. We don't have any money. Our cards don't work. That sounds like a you problem. Maybe you should have thought about that before you celebrated kicking me out of my house. I paused. Oh, and Gregory? Your return flight? The one you booked with that credit card that no longer works? It's been canceled. You're stuck in Paris with no money, no credit, and no way home. Enjoy the city of light. You can't leave us here. Can't I? Watch me. I smiled. You told me to find somewhere else to die. Well, here's my suggestion. Figure it out yourself. You're smart, you're resourceful, you'll manage. Or you won't. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. I ended the call before he could respond, and immediately blocked both their numbers. My hands were shaking, but not from fear or sadness. From pure, undiluted satisfaction. My phone rang again almost immediately. Lawrence. Please tell me you recorded that call. Every second. You're my favorite client ever. That was beautiful. Cruel, but beautiful. Over the next few days, the situation unfolded exactly as Lawrence had predicted. Gregory and Denise managed to get emergency assistance from the American Embassy to return home, a humiliating process that involved proving they were stranded and had no resources. The embassy provided them with basic travel documents and economy tickets on a flight 3 days later. During those 3 days, I moved back into the house. My house. The one Walter had given me. I walked through the rooms with a locksmith, changing every lock, and arranged for a security system to be installed. Everything was different now, seen through the eyes of ownership rather than occupation. I also started going through Gregory's belongings. The designer clothes, the expensive electronics, the watch collection. All of it had been purchased with money that was now legally mine, which meant the items were mine too. I boxed everything up methodically and had it stored in the garage for him to collect within the 72-hour window Lawrence had specified. When Gregory and Denise finally arrived back in Seattle, disheveled and exhausted from their ordeal, they found their key didn't work. Gregory pounded on the door for 10 minutes before I finally opened it, leaving the chain lock in place. Hello, Gregory. Let me in. This is my house. No, it's my house, and you're trespassing. Your belongings are in the garage. You have until 5 p.m. tomorrow to collect them. After that, anything remaining becomes my property. Evelyn, please. He was crying now, actual tears running down his face. I have nowhere to go. Everything I own is in there. Just let me stay one night while I figure things out. You told me I had 24 hours to pack and leave. I'm giving you 72 hours to collect your things. That's twice as generous as you were to me. Be grateful." Denise pushed forward, trying to see past me into the house. "This is insane. You can't keep us out of our own home. It's not your home. It never was. And if you don't leave my property in the next 60 seconds, I'm calling the police for trespassing." I closed the door on their protests and walked back to the kitchen, where Lawrence was waiting with a glass of wine and an enormous smile. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Honestly, I feel free." The next morning, Gregory's lawyer called Lawrence requesting a meeting. They wanted to negotiate, to find some compromise that would let Gregory keep at least some of the inheritance. "Tell them no," I said when Lawrence asked for my input. "The will's terms are clear. He violated them. He gets nothing." "You're sure? They might drag this out in court." "Let them. We have recordings, text messages, social media posts, and Walter's own words. They have nothing but Gregory's entitlement." The court hearing happened 2 weeks later. Gregory showed up looking haggard, wearing a suit I recognized as being at least 5 years old, clearly the only one he still owned that I hadn't boxed up. His lawyer, a nervous man named Howard who clearly knew his client was doomed, tried to argue that Gregory hadn't understood the terms of the will, that the clause requiring my approval was unclear, that the penalty was too severe. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Beverly Harrison, listened with increasing impatience as Howard stumbled through his arguments. Finally, she held up her hand. "Mr. Howard, let me make sure I understand your position. Your client inherited $33 million with one simple condition: get his wife's approval for large transactions. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor, but..." And instead of following that condition, he kicked his wife out of the house, told her she was useless, offered her $50,000 to go away quietly, and then spent $8 million on luxury items while attempting to force her to sign away her legal rights. Is that also correct?" "Your Honor, my client was grieving." "Your client was an idiot." Judge Harrison looked at Gregory with undisguised contempt. "Mr. Thompson, your father left you a fortune with one string attached. One condition designed to ensure you treated your wife with respect and consideration. You couldn't manage even that minimal requirement. The penalty clause is clear, legally sound, and will be enforced in full. 75% of all assets from Walter Thompson's estate will be transferred to Evelyn Thompson within 30 days. The remaining 25% will be distributed to the charities specified in the will. Do you understand?" Gregory looked like he might be sick. "Your Honor, please. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Just give me another chance." "Another chance to do what? To spend more money you don't have? To treat your wife with more contempt?" "No, Mr. Thompson. You had your chance, and you squandered it spectacularly. This court finds that you knowingly and deliberately violated the terms of Walter Thompson's will. The penalty clause is activated. Case closed." She banged her gavel, and just like that, it was over. Gregory tried to approach me as we left the courtroom, but Lawrence stepped between us. "My client has nothing to say to you. All future communication goes through me." "Evelyn, please," Gregory's voice echoed down the hallway. "We can still fix this. I love you. I never stopped loving you." I turned back to look at him one last time. He looked broken, desperate, nothing like the confident man who'd kicked me out of my house 2 months ago. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity, no anger. Just a vast, peaceful emptiness where my love for him used to be. "You never loved me, Gregory. You loved what I did for you. There's a difference. Your father tried to teach you that. It's not my job to keep trying." I walked away and didn't look back. The asset transfer took exactly 30 days, just as Judge Harrison had ordered. I watched the numbers appear in my accounts. The stocks, the sale proceeds from the yacht and car Gregory had bought, the value of everything he'd purchased with what was now my money. The total came to $24 million after legal fees and the charitable distributions. the house in Los Angeles that Gregory had tried to buy. The sale was voided, and he was sued for breach of contract. He settled for $200,000 he didn't have, putting him significantly in debt. The yacht, the car, the watch, everything was sold at auction to pay his creditors. Denise blamed him for everything, claiming he'd promised to take care of her financially once he got the inheritance. Their relationship, which had been so united against me, fell apart completely when the money disappeared. She moved out of state and, from what I heard through mutual acquaintances, refused to speak to him. Gregory ended up moving into a small apartment in Tacoma, working a middle management job at a logistics company that one of his father's old friends had helped him secure out of pity. His social media went silent. The friends who'd congratulated him on his freedom disappeared when he could no longer afford to socialize with them. I sold the Seattle house eventually. Too many bad memories. I bought a smaller place overlooking the water in Portland and started consulting again, surprised by how quickly my old skills came back. I also set up a foundation in Walter's name to help victims of financial elder abuse, something I knew would have made him happy. 6 months after the court ruling, I received one final communication from Gregory, a handwritten letter delivered through Lawrence. "Evelyn, I know you won't read this, but I have to write it anyway. You were right about everything. I was cruel, selfish, and stupid. My father saw what I couldn't see about myself, and he tried to teach me through consequences I was too arrogant to imagine. I lost everything because I didn't value what mattered. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, and I know you'll never forgive me. I don't deserve forgiveness. But I want you to know that I understand now, finally, what my father was trying to show me. I hope you're happy. You deserve to be. Gregory." I read it once, filed it away with all the other evidence from our case, and never thought about it again. Gregory spent the next 3 years struggling financially, his reputation in Seattle's business community destroyed by the court case and the revelation of his treatment of me. Denise moved to Phoenix and cut off all contact with him, bitter about losing what she'd considered her share of the inheritance. His attempt to rebuild relationships with his father's old colleagues failed when word spread about how he'd treated Walter's wishes. He remained trapped in a modest-paying job, his luxury lifestyle and social standing gone forever, serving as a living reminder that cruelty and entitlement come with a price. As for me, I built a new life that was entirely my own. The foundation grew, helping dozens of families navigate elder care and financial protection. I dated occasionally, but wasn't in a rush to remarry. I'd learned that my own company was worth more than any relationship built on obligation or convenience. Sometimes, late at night, I'd think about Walter and the extraordinary gift he'd given me. Not just money, but the knowledge that someone had seen my worth when I couldn't see it myself. That was the real inheritance, and it was worth more than any amount in any bank account. Looking back on my journey from discarded wife to independent woman, I realized that the best revenge wasn't destroying Gregory. It was discovering that I never needed him at all.